Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be doing something that makes me a little bit nervous and using powdered watercolours in my journal. So I'm starting off with this lovely image from Natalie May Scrapbooking, which is a collage tissue, rice paper. Because I knew I wanted to use some bright colours in the background and I was working my craft journal, I decided to put a little bit gesso underneath. I did cheat a little bit before I started this. I'd torn out the extra bits of white on this, which I probably shouldn't have needed to, but I wanted to, and I just painted in the pieces behind that will sit behind that gel medium will sit behind that image, if that makes sense. So it means where the image goes down, I'll have a really strong black and white happening, and then I'll have the craft in the background as a bit of an extra layer texture color, so you can sort of see how that all fits together there. If I had glued that straight down onto the page, you still would have been able to see the image really clearly. It just would have had a brown undertone, a warmer undertone, but I want to have quite a cool undertone because I want to put some bright rainbow colors over the top. One thing I am doing though is I am going over the entire image with clear gesso. Now I don't use clear gesso very often. I tend to just, I use gel medium and it seals everything. But the reason I've used the clear gesso in this instance is for two reasons. One, I wanted to seal my rice paper because I was using a really water soluble product with it. Rice paper obviously is really absorbent, so if I hadn't sealed it, the colours would have been bleeding left, right and centre, and although I wanted to do that a little bit, I wanted to have a little bit more control with it. The second reason I use the clear gesso is because it has a little bit of grit to it. It acts as a little bit of a primer and lets the watercolour stay on the page a little bit more, so it sort of helps it grip to where it needs to be. So I'm going in, I just sprinkled out some of these powders. These are the Natalie May magical colours that she put together, which come together to make really beautiful rainbow colours. As I said, it fills me with dread and fear sometimes doing these, but you sprinkle on the powder and then spray on some water. You can see it sort of goes where it wants to go, and you can control it as much or as little as you want. So I have put on the blue, now I'm putting on the yellow. You can obviously see, because it is water soluble, that where the blue and yellow mix, it makes that lovely green colour. So you do need to be aware as you're doing this that a little bit of your colour theory, what colours you're going to be mixing and how that is going to affect your piece underneath. I am trying to, as much as possible, to avoid the woman in the middle. Obviously, that red went on her. You are going to get some bits sprinkled here, there and everywhere. Because the page is sealed a little bit, I can sort of dab some bits and pieces off. Obviously it's going to stain some of it, but I quite liked that sort of flood effect that came through. I can still see her, I can still work with that image. So now I'm going in with a little bit more red down the bottom, just to add a little bit of balance to the page as well. So you can see even on the craft paper that you've got these beautiful bright colours happening. So you don't necessarily have to have that white underneath. It's still a really strong, vibrant colour, but you can kind of see the difference between having on a white surface versus the craft undertone. Once I dried that off a little bit, I'm going in with the Tim Holtz watercolour crayons, distress watercolour crayons, to add a little bit of extra colour to her face. Now I chose to do this because I want to work with a little bit more of a dry medium. Again, if I tried to use a bit of paint on that, it most likely would have got away with me, so having something that I can control a little bit, I felt a little bit safer with. I didn't like how I put the white in the hair, so I painted over it just with a little bit of water. What happened was, because obviously the white is a water soluble medium as well, and it had the pigment in the background, it sort of just blended together and re-wetted the paint so it popped it out. I am going in with my black Stabilo though, just to highlight that lady in the middle and pop her out, to put a little bit of more emphasis on her eyes. Going in and changing the colour of her iris. Still got that beautiful red in her lips, putting in the catch-alls in her eyes. I chose to use my black Posca just because I wanted a really fine line. And as you can see, my Stabilo pencil is teeny tiny, and I don't want to sharpen it as much as I used to, because there's not going to be much left of it. I used to have a whole stack of about 12, and I've gone through them all, so I have to purchase some. So when I got to this point, I actually really liked how it turned out. I liked how the colours have flowed together and how the colours have mixed together. That green really took my fancy. I loved it. So I was really, really happy with it. I found on Pinterest this quote about colour. The purest, most thoughtful minds are the ones who look for colour or use colour, which I really liked. The pen I'm using to write with is a chrome paint pen from Life of Colour. It, as you can see, is very, very bright. It's one of those sort of like colour shift almost. It's mirror effect, but you know, it will blend into the page and then you'll shift it and you get this sudden silver. So I quite liked how that worked. I have found that I have been still doing my drop shadows on the letters just to help pop them out from the page a little bit. Helps outline the letters a little bit more and make it look less like it was a mistake that there's something there, that it is actually words on the page. The paint pen itself is really, really opaque, and it actually went over the water-soluble paints really well. So sometimes when you're using the matte Posca paint pens, for example, particularly if you're using, say, the white, it will pick up the colour from underneath. Because this is quite a thick formula, even though it goes on really nicely, yeah, there was no issue with bleed through or colour change. It just went on silver and stayed silver. Just to finish off the page, I'm going in with a little bit of stamping. Because the background collage tissue had some writing on it, I just wanted to balance it up and blend it into the page a little bit more. So I grabbed out my text stamps, whatever they were, to add that into the background. So you can see in the close-up how those colours look, how the face looked with that little bit of distressed crayon to blend it all in together, so she looks like she's coming out of a rainbow. I was really, really happy with how this piece went. As I said, it's one of the first times I've sort of played around using the clear gesso with the powdered watercolours as well, just having a go with them and seeing what happens. I think you just need to go with the flow when you use them, but they are lots of fun with the random nature that you get with them. So I hope you have a go with that. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.